Thank you so much for being here. So tell me about yourself. What is it that you exactly do?
So I just graduated from UVA this past May with a degree in biology, and I've just recently started my first job with the Howard Hughes Medical Institute at the Janelia Research Campus. And I'm part of their developing team called the Connectome Annotation team. So we do image processing for EM imagery that comes from multiple labs and multiple projects, but the big end goal of that is to create a 3D digital map of every neuron in the fly brain. So I help with tracing neurons and looking through all of those EM images to create that model.
That's really cool. So what moment or event inspired you to get into STEM?
So it's kind of been a long time coming. I've always been a very nature-oriented kid. I grew up with lots of animals. I ride horses, and I think that early exposure kind of got me interested in the biology and medical field. And I also went to the Academy of Science in high school, which gave me a whole lot more exposure to research. And I just kind of stuck with that theme throughout my whole life. So yeah.
That's amazing. So have you faced any challenges in your field?
Yeah, definitely. The biggest thing is probably coming out of high school. As a high schooler, I was used to everything being coming very naturally to me and being pretty easy. And if I put in the work, I would get the results I wanted. And college was a little bit of a wake-up call in the beginning because I couldn't just sit down and study and automatically expect an A in everything. It was just a whole different level of challenge than I was used to, and I had to kind of get used to experiencing a little bit of failure and learning how to grow from that instead of just being completely beaten down by it. So I think that kind of resiliency was the biggest challenge for me, but it was definitely really helpful in teaching me how to move on.
So bouncing off of that, what's been your biggest accomplishment thus far?
I don't think that there's one defining moment, but I think it's been a lot of little moments where I kind of look back on everything and realize how far I've come and how much progress I've made. So some of them have been I worked in a lab in college, and I was lucky to be there for all 4 years of college, so I really got to see the lab grow. I joined it only a year after it had started, and in the time that I was there, we made huge strides in what we were studying and the number of people that we brought onto the team. So just getting to watch projects like that develop has been really rewarding.
So have you ever seen gender disparity in your field, and how have you dealt with that?
So I've been really lucky to have a lot of awesome female role models. So I personally haven't really felt that gender was anything that held me back or that I was ever discriminated for. I know that it definitely happens in my field, but I think, again, one of the things I've been really lucky with is to be surrounded by really strong female leaders, and that's definitely kind of put me on the path towards holding my own in the field.
So on a different track, what do you do outside of your job? What are your hobbies? What are your interests?
So I mentioned I really love nature and I ride horses. Those are probably the two biggest things. When I'm not at work, I'm riding for a bunch of different people in the area. I've ridden competitively for most of my life. I love to get out and go hiking and running and just anything that gets me outside.
So what advice would you give to younger girls out there who are trying to get into STEM?
So back to the whole female role models thing, I think surrounding yourself with good people that you can look up to and try to emulate their skills and what they do is really important. And going off of that, also just networking and talking to people and not being afraid to ask questions. I used to always hold back on my questions thinking that I would sound kind of ignorant if I said something and didn't know what I was talking about. But the older I've gotten, the more I've realized just go ahead and ask the question. Most people are going to be really happy that you're taking interest in their work. So yeah.
Great, thank you so much.
Thanks.